Hey, Melinda. So I think we're just giving it a few more moments for people to join before we get going. Okay. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'll make a brief introduction. We have our expert here, Steve Kramer with Feldman, Kramer and Monaco, who will be sharing some details on just general estate planning. He's very well versed in all of this, and I'll let him jumpstart or kickstart in. And I think if we have questions as we move on, we could ask them. So Steve, I will go ahead and make you the host because I know you have some um, slides that you'll be sharing, and I think that should be good. Thanks, everyone.
I'm going to wait, give it another minute just to let some more people come in because I know I do a lot of Zooms and it's like at the 5-minute mark, all of a sudden everybody wants to come in. But if anybody wants to throw a question out there in the meantime, we could kill some time. I also invited someone from my own office to watch. 2 people are coming in right now. Oh, Diane.
Hey,
We're live, Diane. So I'm going to mute you unless you have something very important to say.
I do not.
But anybody feel free. This is a small group. I can handle questions on the fly. So if you have a question or you want more information on a topic that I'm on or a topic that I'm not even going to touch, go for it. This is an easy group to share. I'm only going to go for about 25 minutes. I am a fast talker. I know that. But there is an unlimited amount of information for me to hit. My wife is a teacher. My mom and dad are both retired teachers, and they're very fond of telling me that, whenever you're giving a presentation, keep in mind that at any given moment, really only half of your classroom is listening to you. So this is no different than any other classroom. Half of you will be tuning me out and half of you will be in. So if you have a good question at midstream, and even if the person right before you asked the same question, but you didn't get the answer that you wanted to hear, throw that question at me. Why not? Because chances are, if you're asking that question, somebody else wants that information also. I want you to walk away with a lot of good information here. I don't expect you to walk out of here and be able to teach elder law to your neighbor. That's not the goal of today. Today's goal is to tell you about things that you might not know and hopefully push a button on something that you wanted more information on and give you an avenue or an explanation on how you could find more resources on this piece of information. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, today, I think I need a career change. I want to be a family caregiver. Yet 1 in 3 people in New York is a caregiver for another family member. They're caring for a sick spouse, a mom and dad, a mother and father-in-law, a sibling, a disabled child. And people don't think of themselves as a caregiver, and they don't know how to navigate the healthcare system, and they don't know where to find resources, and they don't know how to validate, am I on the right path here? Am I doing the right thing for the person that I'm providing this care for? So all I'm going to do today is give you issue spotting ability and the ability to find more resources. I think you'll definitely walk away with some useful information. All right, that was my filler speech. Now that we'll start the real deal. All right, everybody should be able to see the opening slide there. That is the prep. Okay. So we've been around for a long time. There's lots of different ways to get in touch with us. That's our phone number, 631-231-1450. Believe it or not, we have an app. You can scan that QR code. We do Zooms on lots of different useful information that has to do with the elder law or estate planning or asset protection world. You can always go on our website, fkmlaw.com, and request one if you want some more information. I'm going to warm your brain up. We're going to start off with some really easy stuff. When you go take a math class, you don't start off with factoring or fractions. You start off with easy stuff. So everybody should have a healthcare proxy. You may have done one a long time ago when you went to a doctor, but if you didn't save a copy of it, then you may not really have a healthcare proxy. If you can't put your finger on it, I'm not sure that you have one. So a healthcare proxy allows me to choose someone to make healthcare decisions for me if I can't do it. As long as I'm alert, I'm orientated, and I can interact with you and respond to the doctor or the nurse. The doctor or nurse is going to ask me for my consent for anything, but if I can't answer that question, they're going to look to the person I appointed, my healthcare proxy, my agent. But if I don't appoint somebody, New York State's going to choose somebody for me, and they may pick someone I don't want. They may pick my spouse, but we haven't been getting along since COVID because that's the most time we ever spent together on top of each other. Or they may pick my eldest son. He's 40, living in my basement. I have a serious failure to launch situation going on down there right now. I don't want him to make those decisions. He doesn't want to make those decisions. I want my daughter to do it because she's a doctor and I've discussed my wishes with her and I trust her, but I have to pick her. I have to be a little proactive here and appoint her. If I don't, New York State's going to choose somebody. And New York they don't know me. They don't know the dynamics of my family. They may pick the wrong person. So it's really important to get this one done. It's easy to do. And just for watching the Zoom, if you need a healthcare proxy and you don't have one, you can call our office and say you watched a Zoom with Steve and you need a healthcare proxy. We will type it up for you. We will witness it for you and we will copy it for you all for free because Little Flower is awesome and we want to help them help the world. Why do you need a healthcare proxy? Because you want to put the world on notice who you want to make decisions for you if you can't do it. So you got to pick, you want to choose the person who's going to make medical decisions for you, and that includes removing artificial hydration and nutrition. So we kind of make the healthcare proxy very broad. My agent knows my wishes is really what it's going to say. And I need to have that conversation with them. I don't want them to be blindsided by this appointment. I'm going to have this conversation with my agent and let them know really what I want. And I don't want anybody fighting in the ER at 4 o'clock in the morning over my decisions. What's the right age to do a healthcare proxy? Do it now. It's free. I'm telling you right now, we'll do it for you for free. This is no brainer. Do it before you're sick. Do it before the next pandemic. If you've done one in the past and you got divorced, that probably got revoked. So you need to do one anyway. How many people can I appoint? I know only half of you are listening, but some of you are going to hear me say you can have a committee doing it. You cannot have a committee making healthcare decisions. It has to be one person. You can have a primary, a backup, and then a backup after that, but you cannot have a committee. You need to have one person at a time. If you insist, I have 2 kids. I love them both equally. They must work together. If you put 2 people on the same line, you do not have a valid healthcare proxy. That will not work. You can pick your spouse. You can pick your partner. You can pick the child that lives with you. You can pick the child that's a doctor. You can pick the child that's a nurse. But if you pick more than one and make them equal, it will not work. The formula that we use in our office to determine which child you should pick is pick whichever child you love the most. Someone will always say, well, I don't really love one more than the other. In fact, I hate them both equally. Or I want to pick my cat. You can't pick your cat. You can't pick a team. You have to pick the one that will follow your wishes. That's how you're going to decide. You're going to pick the person who would do what you would do if you were alert and orientated and you can do it. That's how you decide. Who is going to follow? Who's going to do what you would have done? Could you do it? New York State does not want a committee. They want one fire chief to act as the command center when there's an emergency. What color is the wall behind me? Can you tell what color that is? Is it off-white, wall white, ceiling white, beige, dirty? Reasonable people, reasonable educated people could disagree on what color that wall is behind me. I said that with such a New York accent, wall. It's what color is the wall behind me? Reasonable people could disagree. And New York State does not want reasonable people disagreeing in the ER. That's why they only allow you to have one agent at a time. Where should you keep the healthcare proxy? Keep it in your hall closet under your lucky blue towel in your fireproof box. Do not keep it in a safety deposit box. Do not keep the original In the law office, you want to have the original in your house and your let's not make a treasure map on how to find this. You want your agent to be able to locate it in an emergency. So put it in the hall closet under your lucky blue towel. Let them know where that is. Make sure that box is fireproof. We don't want to put this in grandpa's World War II ammo box in the basement or a metal filing cabinet in the basement, because when you have a fire and water comes, water is going to go to the basement in that box. And banks and law offices are closed on weekends, nights, and holidays, and that's when emergencies happen. And your agent needs to be able to get there. You can make a digital copy of it. You can take a picture of it and scan it into your phone. That will generally work. It has to be witnessed by two adults that cannot be your agent. So your kids should not be your witnesses. We will provide the witnesses for you. We'll do it for free. It does not have to be notarized. This is an easy one to take care of, and we're going to do it for you for free. If you move to Florida, you should update it in Florida. You move to North Carolina, you should do it in North Carolina. If you're driving to Maryland, you get into an accident in New Jersey. Will New Jersey honor a New York healthcare proxy? They will. But if you move to another state, you want the doctor or the nurse that's reading this to respond as though your emergency is their emergency. You don't want there to be ambiguity or confusion. So you want them to be most familiar with the form. So if you move out of state, you should do it in that new state. What if you spend half the time in New York and half the time in Florida? Well, where do you vote? Where are your doctors? Where do you pay your taxes? That's a state you want to do these documents in. There was a while where my parents were living more in Florida than they were in New York, but they still did all their medical stuff up in New York. So we kept their healthcare proxy in New York. Once they switched their doctors to Florida, we switched the healthcare proxy to Florida. A living will is similar to a do not resuscitate. A do not resuscitate says, do not resuscitate me no matter what. A living will is a little softer. It says, if you can make me better, make me better. If you can fix me, fix me. If I have a heart attack right now on this screen, because I'm so excited about elder law and asset protection, you see me go down, I want you to call 911. I want you to get an ambulance. I want you to make me better and make me better by Friday, because there's things I want to do over the weekend. But if I'm in a permanent vegetative state, I'm a vegetable, I'm not going to get better. I'm brain dead. I don't want to be on a feeding tube and a vent in the corner of a rehab facility and be a burden on my family. But if you can make me better, make me better. But if you can't, then I want you to let me go. I did have a client come in and say, I'm so adamant about not being resuscitated that I actually tattooed on my chest, do not resuscitate. And I thought, wow, that's a little drastic, a little extreme. I bet that cost more than free, and we'll do the living will for you for free. So you could save a little money there, and it had to have hurt a lot more than calling our office at 631-231-1450. And he didn't have it witnessed by two people, so not enforceable. So it's difficult for your relative to say to a judge, Your Honor, believe it or not, Steve and I, every Thanksgiving, we had a conversation. We had a conversation about what would happen if he was in an irreversible permanent vegetative state. And he told me that he didn't want to be put on the machines. The judge is going to say, well, I need a little more than that. I need some clear and convincing evidence. What does that mean? How do you meet that burden of proof? It means in writing. And this is an easy one to do, and we will do it for you for free. What's the right age to do a living will? I would do it now. I would do it before you get sick. Do it before you're in an irreversible permanent vegetative state. Do it before the next pandemic. Do it when you're done with the Zoom. Where do you keep it? You keep it in the hall closet under your lucky blue towel in the fireproof box with your healthcare proxy. They're like first cousins. They always hang out together. Don't keep this in a safety deposit box or the law office, because we're closed on weekends and holidays, and so is the bank, and the bank makes it very difficult to get to a safety deposit box. So a fireproof box in the house, much better choice. It does not have to be notarized, but it does have to be witnessed by two people. We will provide the witnesses for you. How often should you update it? Well, if you move out of state, yes, update it. If the laws change, update it. If your belief system changes, or your religious beliefs change, or your healthcare changes, maybe they came up with a cure for a terminal disease you had, maybe, and so now you want to change it, or maybe you move to a state that doesn't really recognize living wills. You're going to want to do whatever their state requires you to do it. All right, I gave you the easy stuff first. Now here's your real takeaway. If you're going to do one thing, if you said, I'm an obsessive compulsive list maker, Steve, I like to make lists and I get real satisfaction about crossing things off. Give me something to do. I want some homework. I'm a homework junkie. get your power of attorney done. That is really one of the more important things you could do, because in New York, if I don't do a healthcare proxy, New York State's going to pick someone to make decisions for me. If I don't do a will, New York State will decide where my money's going to go. If I don't do a will, New York State's going to appoint a representative for me. But if I don't do a power of attorney, no one, zero people, not my spouse, not my kids, not my parents, no one can make financial decisions for me if I don't have a power of attorney. It is your takeaway from today. If you're going to do one thing, or if you're just watching this for informational purposes and you're going to visit your parents over the July 4th weekend and you want to start an uncomfortable conversation because you've already gone through religion and politics. Now, what else could I bring up? Bring up death and dying and say, Mom and Dad, New York State came out with a new power of attorney in June of 21. In June of 2021, New York State came up with a new power of attorney, and we should probably update your power of attorney. Steve told me that June of 21, we need to do a new power of attorney. And your parents are going to think to themselves, I think Steve thinks he knows more than me, and Steve wants you to steal my money. Now, I know that's an uncomfortable conversation you have to have with a loved one, but as your takeaway from today, you cannot make a financial decision, even for your spouse or your parents, or without a power of attorney. If you don't do it, believe it or not, we provide a benefit to a lot of unions. And we had a couple that were both in two different unions, and they got the power of attorney for free, and they had it drafted. They put it in their glove compartment, and they both made appointments for next week to get it signed. Wife was a teacher in the city. Husband worked for Con Ed. They both had a benefit through our office. They both got their power of attorney drafted. They both didn't sign it. Husband got COVID, started to go downhill real fast. Wife calls and says, I'm concerned. My husband not doing so great. And he thought he was going to live forever, and he was going to take the max on his pension. And if he dies on the job with that current election for his pension goes with him. I need to change that so that if he passes away first, the pension will come to me. I called the retirement system, but they won't talk to me because I don't have power of attorney for my spouse. And they were right. They shouldn't talk to her. So because of that, she couldn't change that beneficiary. So she had to come her spouse's court-appointed guardian, which takes about 6 months when things work out right, and costs about $15,000. We started a guardianship proceeding. Unfortunately, he passed away and she lost his pension. Don't be that client. That's a terrible mistake. That's like losing $2.5 million. Son calls me up and says, Dad's starting to lose it. I want to get a power of attorney done for him. I want to get the power of attorney done sooner than later, because I heard in New York, if I have a good power of attorney, I can apply for home care benefits for my dad through the VA and through Medicaid. I can get extra money from the VA, and I could apply to get Medicaid to pay for an aid to live with dad. But I heard I need a power of attorney to do this, and that is true. So dad comes in with son, we start talking, and dad seems totally competent to me. He says, I'm a new retiree. I've discovered the fishing channel. What a wonderful channel. Anytime they catch a fish, though, I got to catch the same fish. Anytime they get a bigger boat, I got to get a bigger boat. Every time I get a bigger boat, I have to extend my dock. And that's a real arduous permit process with the town. And I'm starting to think to myself, wow, dad seems sharp as a tack here. His son trying to pull a fast one. And then dad excuses himself. He goes to the bathroom. He doesn't come back. And then dad comes in, and paralegal walks dad in. And dad says, starts all over. It was like Groundhog Day. He has no recollection of meeting me. So what dad does is he gets up in the morning, he cooks himself breakfast, he eats breakfast, goes to the bank, pays his bills, comes home, cooks lunch, eats lunch, watches the fishing channel, gets all riled up, and then goes back to the bank to pay the same bills. And the son says, whoa, bank teller, hang on, time out. Dad doesn't have capacity. I don't want him to pay those bills. And the bank teller says, I'm interacting with your dad right now. He appears totally competent to me. Either show me a power of attorney, or you have to go to the Supreme Court and become his court-appointed guardian. And by the way, that costs $15,000 and takes 6 months. But because son had a really good power of attorney, he was able to take control of dad's finances, protect his pension, his Social Security, his assets, and he was able to get Medicaid to pay for an aid to live with dad, because dad would prefer to get care in the community as opposed to going into a rehab facility. You want the general durable power of attorney? That's the kind you want. Anybody watching the Zoom, we will do the power of attorney for you for free, because Little Flower is awesome. So power of attorney, you want the general durable. General means it covers everything. Durable means it still works after you get sick. You need both of those kind. That's the only kind we're going to do. That is the best type of power of attorney out there. It avoids a lot of confusion and problems. What's the right age to do a power of attorney? Do it before you get sick. You need to do it before you get sick, because if you're too sick to do it, then you can't do it, and your agent has to become your guardian. If you've done one in the past and then subsequently got divorced, that power of attorney was probably revoked. You're going to store the power of attorney with the healthcare proxy and the living will in your hall closet under your blue towel in the fireproof box. Make sure your agent knows how to get there. It doesn't do anybody any good if they can't get into that box or they can't find it.
I have a quick question on that.
Sure.
Do they need like the original, like an original signature, or can like can you have copies when you're when you
It's going to be up to the financial institution. A bank may require to look at the original, and they may even say to you, we want the original. And then at that point, you will say, I can't give you the original. I'll show it to you. You can make a photocopy, but I'm walking out of this bank with that original, because bank number two may want to see the original. If I give it to you and you lose it, and you probably only have one original, because as soon as you sign another original, the second one revokes the first one. So you can really only have one original. So never, ever, ever give it away. I know only half of you are listening to me, and half of you heard me say you could give it away. Do not give away that original. Always walk out of the bank with that original. That original is very important. How often should the power of attorney be updated? Probably every 5 years. I've been doing this now for 29 years, and it's been updated 4 times in my 29 years. Every time they come up with a new one, banks and financial institutions are reluctant to honor the older form, and it slows the process down and becomes a real nightmare in a crisis situation. So you should always keep this one updated. How will you know when New York comes out with a new one? You may not. So I would call the law office every 5 years and say, hey, are we still good? Is this power of attorney still the current version? Once your loved one becomes incapacitated, they can't do a new one, and we have to deal with the facts that were dealt with and just operate with the older one, but we don't want to do that if we don't have to. A will is your control beyond the grave. Most people don't realize how important a will is until after someone dies, their neighbor, their cousin, their best friend passes away, and they see what a nightmare it is without a will. If you don't do a will, by the way, New York State decides where your money goes. So I have a dog, a wife, and a son. I have a dog, a wife, and a son. I have a heart attack on this Zoom right now from the excitement of telling you how awesome Little Flower is. I have a dog, a wife, and a son. I die. Where do you think the money goes? I'm going to give you a hint. You're all going to get it wrong. You can unmute yourself and throw an answer out at me. Anybody have a
my
wrong guess?
wife?
Spouse is the most common wrong answer. And someone always says dog. It doesn't go to the dog. It doesn't go to the dog. Never goes to the dog, even though the dog loves me the most. It doesn't go to New York State. It doesn't go to New York State unless you have no relatives beyond second cousins. I have a spouse and a child. So it actually goes half spouse, half child. Why is that a problem? Well, my child is too young to handle the money, and my wife is too young not to get it all. She may live for another 50 years, and she needs it all. She may run in here to revive me and to strangle me to death again because she's only 50. She could live for 50 years, and she needs all that money. And our son is too young. He could, if he gets all that money today, hello, Corvette, goodbye, college. Now my son's going to make a life change. He's going to go to Miami and be a DJ until he runs out of that money. And then I got a larger problem. So I want to give it to him maybe over time. Some at 25, some at 30, some at 35. I want to protect my kids against themselves because they may marry the wrong person. They may make a bad business move. They may put it all into Bitcoin and it may go through the roof, or they may put it in Dogecoin and it may disappear. So you protect your kids against themselves. You may say, Steve, I don't think you know my kids. I have two little angels. They're not going to marry the wrong person. They're not going to get into a car accident. They're not going to make a bad business move. Protect your two little angels against themselves and give them the money over time. What's the right age to do a will? Well, the easy answer is do it before you die, or do it before the next pandemic. Do it before you're sick. Most people don't realize how important it is until something happens to somebody else. If you've done a will in the past, you may want to update it. Maybe you have a significant shift in your financial situation. Maybe there's a change in the tax code. Maybe you inherited some money. Maybe one of your heirs passed away. Maybe the birth of a new grandchild. Maybe you bought a second house in South Carolina. All good reasons why you should pull it out of the hall closet, take a look at it, and maybe update it. Where do you store your will? You do not store your will in a safety deposit box. Do not. My wife says use positive reinforcement. So, fireproof box good, bank bad. Don't put your will in the bank because your your executor will have to hire us to bring a special proceeding to get it out of that safety deposit box. That's good for the lawyer, bad for you. Don't be that client. Do not take the staples out of your will. I know half of you are hearing me say right now you can take the staples out of the will. You cannot take the staples. All right, positive reinforcement. Staples good. Keep them in the will. Keep them in their home. If you take the staples out of the will, the court thinks that one of the beneficiaries swapped out the pages or you revoke the will. Do not take the staples out of the will. You can't write on the will. You can, if my son marries a crazy person and I want to cross him off the will, can I cross him off the will and initial it? I cannot. You cannot initial a change on your will. You cannot make a handwritten change. I know some of you are hearing me say you can take the staples out and you can make a handwritten change. You cannot take the staples out and you cannot change your will with a handwritten thing, even if you initial it. If I have a $1 bill and I add 2 zeros to it, but I initial it, did I make it a $100 bill? I didn't. So don't, there's no way I did that. You cannot change your will that way. Do not write on your will. Also, do not write the words my estate as your beneficiary on your retirement accounts. Do not write the words my estate on your retirement accounts because you will trigger all of the income tax in one shot. That is a terrible, terrible mistake. Do not take the staples out of the will. Do not store the will in a safety deposit box. Do not write on your will and don't use the words my estate as your beneficiary. All very bad things. The will has to be witnessed by 2 people and notarized. And if you move, you may want to update it. Trusts have been around since Roman times. You might, Mr. Kramer, I don't really know what a trust is. Well, a trust is an agreement between you, your trustee, and the beneficiary. You're going to set up an entity that's going to protect your assets. It's been around since Roman times. It is the biggest advancement in property law in a very, very long time. It's a way to protect your assets. There's lots of beneficial reasons to do a trust. Not everybody needs a trust, but if you want to leave something to somebody and you want to attach an if and or a but to it, I want my spouse to get the money, but not her kids from her prior marriage. I want it to go to my college, but only if it's used for the arts. I want it to go to my kids, but only after they turn 30. I want it to go to my family, but only if they pay less tax and the nursing home can't grab it. I want to give it to my kids, but after they graduate college. I want it to go to my family, but not the nursing home. There's lots of different types of trusts out there. A beneficiary protection trust. I want to leave it to my kids, but I want to protect them from their own mistakes. I want to do a trust in my will. That's a testamentary trust. I want to do a trust outside my will. That's a living trust. I don't have any kids. All I have is pets. I want to protect it from my horse, my reptile, and my bird, which will all outlive me. I have a home. My home is worth a lot of money. I want to protect that for my kids. It's not going to change. It's not going to be so much money that they can quit their jobs, but it will set them up for success. If I give them a couple $100,000, think about how long it takes you to save a couple $100,000 after taxes. If you could give your kids a couple $100,000 and they don't have to pay any tax on it, and the nursing home and your long-term care provider can't take it from you, it's probably very worthwhile to do. What's the right age to do a trust? It depends on why we're doing it. I would do it 5 years before you go to the nursing home, 1 month before you need home care, 3 years before you need assisted living facility. The easy answer is early 60s. We have to start, which is crazy to me because that's coming for me soon. So we want to have a serious conversation about protecting your assets in your early 60s. I've been doing this for 30 years now, and early 60s used to seem so old to me. Now it's half a decade away. Revocable versus irrevocable. Revocable, bad, no protection. Irrevocable doesn't mean irrevocable, but it gives you the protection. Irrevocable typically means someone other than my wife and I are trustees. My kids are my trustees. It's probably a irrevocable trust, and I protect my assets. Revocable, no protection. I know revocables are very popular because people on TV push them, but revocables don't protect anything. So why would you do it? I don't know. It's probably a mistake. If you have long-term care insurance, awesome. Keep the long-term care insurance. Do not drop your long-term care insurance. I know half of you are hearing me say drop it. Do not drop your long-term care insurance. Very valuable, very difficult to get, very useful. Keep your long-term care insurance. Okay. Here's Steve's parents. Mom and dad set up a trust. Mom and dad put up their house in New York, their house in Florida, a CD, some stock. They put it in their trust. A trust is like a bucket or a watering can. They made Steve the trustee. Steve holds the handle of the bucket, and Steve and his sister are the beneficiaries of the trust. While mom and dad are alive, anything in the bucket or the trust is protected for mom and dad. When mom and dad both, if dad goes today and mom lives for 30 years, it stays in the bucket for mom. And when mom and dad both go, it goes out to Steve and his sister. This is not Steve's stuff. This is mom and dad's trust. Mom and dad put their house in their trust. Mom and dad keep the star exemption. Mom and dad keep the veterans benefit. Mom and dad have to pay the taxes. Mom and dad have to pay the insurance. Mom and dad have to shovel the driveway and cut the lawn. Mom and dad can rent the house. Mom and dad could sell this stock and put it into a different stock. If Steve gets divorced or Steve's sister gets to a car accident, the kids' problems don't become mom and dad's problems because it's not the kids' stuff until after mom and dad go. A trust is just like a child, but it can't get into trouble. It can't declare bankruptcy. It can't get sued. It can't have a gambling problem. It can't speed and get into a car accident. A trust is a great way to preserve all your benefits and protect the assets. There's lots of advantages to having a trust. Asset protection being the big one. Cost of care is a lot of money. If you can protect your assets, you should do it. You have to be a little proactive here. If I give money to a charity, the IRS says I can take a deduction, but if I don't take that deduction, they don't give it to me. Medicaid says I can protect my home, but if I don't put it into a trust, no one's going to do it for me. I paid very little for that house. Now it's worth a lot. I don't want to pay any tax on that. I want that all to go to my kids tax-free, no estate tax, no gift tax, no capital gains tax, no income tax. I want my kids to get that tax-free, and I want to set them up for success. Oh, by the way, what happens if mom and dad say, Steve, we want to move to Arizona? And I say, no, I'm the trustee. I don't like that idea. In fact, your house is nicer than my house. My wife and I have been looking at your house and we're like, let's get your parents out of there and move in there ourselves. If I do that, my parents will say, Steve, you're fired. They will fire me as trustee and appoint somebody else trustee. If they want to come visit my sister, her kids, and she says, I don't know, Dad, not a good time, they could say, you're cut out. We're leaving it all to Steve. So you can change the beneficiaries and you can change the trustee, even with the irrevocable. Even with the irrevocable, you can change the trustee and the beneficiaries. Giant bonus. You start the Medicaid clock ticking. You can protect assets for a disabled child. You can stagger the money so your kids don't get it all at once. But you can't be your own trustee. If you serve as trustee of your own trust, no protection. That's a bad one. You also have to stay out of nursing home for 5 years. 5 years is a long time. So we want to get that clock ticking. And that type of trust is not free. Obviously, you need a lawyer to set it up. If you have a house, that's the easiest. A condo is easy. Co-op can be problematic. You need to ask the co-op company if they'll allow you to put the shares of the co-op in the trust. What's the right age to do a trust? Or what is there? 5 years before you get sick. That's the right age. So not everybody has done a trust or knows about trust. So why don't more people have a trust? Most people just don't know about it, or they think 5 years is not going to happen. You know, I got 20 more years before I get sick, or they're afraid of the cost of setting it up. A trust usually costs less than 1 month in the nursing. What's the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? Medicare, health insurance for seniors. Everybody gets Medicare. Medicare pays for short-term care, hospitals, rehab, doctor. Medicare pays for doctor care. Also, everybody gets it. Medicare is health insurance for seniors. Medicaid pays for the aid. Medicaid is long-term care. Medicaid pays for the home aid or the nursing home. Not everybody gets Medicaid, but everybody could eventually protect their assets and get it, but you have to apply. You need to be proactive. You can have both. If you get Medicaid, you still keep the Medicare. You still use your same doctors. I don't want to go too deep into the weeds here. If you were a veteran or your spouse is a veteran, there's a benefit out there called aid and attendance, like hearing aid, and you attended the Zoom. Aid and attendance is a pension from the VA that will give you extra income towards care. If you're the veteran and you need assisted living facility, aid and attendance might give you $2,000 a month. If you're the surviving spouse, they may give you $1,200 a month. But you had to have served during one of these conflicts. So you had to have been active duty at least one day during the Korean conflict or the Vietnam era or the Persian Gulf War. All right, that's a lot of information. I don't want to kill you with information, but and it did take me 3 years to learn, so I don't expect everybody to get it overnight. There's no questions in the chat, so if anybody just wants to unmute themselves and fire a question at me, go for it.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, you had mentioned that you can't, New York State does not allow a committee, only one individual for a living will. If, say, a parent had a spouse named as the representative on that, and then that spouse passes away, does the second in command, if you will, automatically become primary, or do you
You
have
get
to
bumped
redo
up the
it?
list.
I'm sorry?
You get bumped up the list as soon as the person above you can't serve due to death or incapacity, or they don't want to serve.
Got it. Thank you.
That's on the healthcare proxy. The healthcare proxy, you're appointing someone to make healthcare decisions. The living will is just a statement regarding what you want during end of life wishes.
What is your contact information?
631 231 1450. Six three one 231 1450. My name is Steve. There are other Steves here. We actually have 175 people here. Or you could ask for Diane. Diane is coming to unmute herself, which is great.
I am, and I'm going to give you my cell because it's just easier. And it's 516-383-9920. So if any of you are interested in what Steve said will be free for you, probably best to go through me. And even if you want to speak to one of the attorneys, because this way you won't have to explain to anybody where you got the information from. I'm on the Zoom. I know who you all are, and I can direct you to an attorney or to someone who can get that that healthcare proxy done for you.
Yeah, typically I would not give out my contact information because I'll just get overrun, but this is a small group, but it's always better to go through Diane. She is more responsive than I am. And a better
Not more
person.
responsible, just more responsive.
And a better human being. The world needs more Dianes in the world.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And if we want to put something in our wills to contribute to Little Flower, you can help us figure out how to do that.
And you should do that. If Little Flower makes a difference, what comes around goes around. If Little Flower makes a difference in an impact in your life, why would you not support the people that supported you? Leave the world in a better place than what you found it in. And society can't function without people that help other people. So this is it's a good mission. And 1 in 3 people in New York is going to need your services.
And I just wanted to add one other thing. I know that special needs trusts might be something that the people are interested in because Little Flower supports a lot of people with special needs. So that's something else that we specialize in. And it's another different kind of trust. So something else you might want to speak to us about or have a consultation with one of our attorneys about.
That's interesting. Maybe we should talk to our program about how we support connecting you to parents to educate them about that opportunity.
And when they're setting up that trust, there could be a payback after, any money remaining in that trust could be left to Little Flower.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you both so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone. Thanks for your time and resources, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Thank you.